All right, awesome. So it's October 12th, Wednesday, and thank you guys so much for coming on to our team call. We have a very special guest on tonight. And again, guys, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. I know all of you guys have children or have super busy schedules like I do, and so you taking, the next 30 to 45 minutes with us, I know is definitely something that's not easy. And so I appreciate that, and I appreciate you coming in here to learn from Cim this evening. So I just want to go right into it because I don't want to, I value everyone's time. And so I just wanted to introduce Cim. He is my mentor in Beachbody Corporate. I absolutely adore and love working with him. He's just, Luke is here right here next to me. Come say hi, Luke.
Luke doesn't feel the same way. He's still sore about all those basketball games. I know. It's not my fault, Luke. He's on the wrong team.
You got him to walk over now, so he's he's now officially going to walk over.
Cim, I've always loved you. Stop it. Stop.
Okay.
But so Cim and I have been working, we work exclusively one-on-one mentorship calls, at least like once a month over the past couple of months. And it's just been such an incredible honor getting to get to know him. But he was formerly, I don't know when he formally goes into his new role, but before he was the Senior Director of Development, very heavily involved in the development of the Hispanic market. So a lot of us on here, we have a lot of Hispanics on our team. But he's really kind of been someone who's been at the grassroots of that and, has really helped to form that. And then now he's currently going to be, I believe, if I'm correct, Cim, in charge of the training and development.
Yeah, all the field development pieces, training, all that stuff, yeah.
So congratulations, because I know it's a promotion for you.
Let's hope I don't screw it up.
So that's a huge, huge deal, guys. A very high role, within Beachbody Corporate. So definitely congratulations on that. So Cim, I'm just going to let you go ahead and take over, and I'm going to.
Awesome. Right now. I appreciate that stuff. Thanks, guys. And guys, it's a real pleasure for me to be here with you. I'm like I mentioned for some of you, I ran home, I ate dinner, and I probably shouldn't have. Because now while I'm sitting here talking, I'm going to have these little micro burps that come up. So if all of a sudden I go like this, just pretend like I'm getting emotional or something, and I'm not actually burping. No, but I'm excited to be here. I appreciate the opportunity to chat with you guys. I recognize a lot of your faces. And those of you that I don't recognize, I'm happy to have the chance to get to meet with you a little bit. And I want to jump right into it if I can. So, as I was thinking about this and the conversations that Stephanie and I've had, I'm thinking about the team and what can I do tonight to try to add some value. The purpose of these calls, at least in my mind, or one of the goals that I have, is that after the call that you've at least had the opportunity to make a decision to help you move yourself forward. That's what I hope. That somewhere, some part of what we talk about or what I say will spark an idea, will hit a button that will either cause you to realize something, a tumbler to click, or will just give you that extra bit of oomph you need to make the step that you know that you need to make, especially this time of the year. At this time of the year, I usually have two groups of people that I talk to. It's either the pushers, the people who have been pushing hard all year, okay, or I have pausers. And the pausers are the ones that just kind of took a little mental break and slowed down for a little while, and now they're kind of looking at the end of the year. And I'll talk for my pushers first. When I think about the pushers, these are the people that have really been trying to push hard all year long. And we're now in October, and oh my gosh, you're tired. You're mentally tired. You're exhausted with it. You're just like, oh my gosh, I want this year to be finished and get you. It's like right now I'm training for a marathon. I've got the New York City Marathon here in about 4 weeks. And for me, it's every time I hit mile 18. Tomorrow morning I got a 21-mile run. So if I die, just know that you guys were the last group I talked to, and I appreciate you guys. But I've got a 21-mile run in the morning. I can tell you exactly what's going to happen. I'm going to hit mile 18, and I'm just going to say, screw it. I don't want to do this anymore. This is dumb. And I'm going to get really irrational in my thinking, and I'm going to have to really remember the reason why I'm trying to run this marathon. Because when you're doing, especially when you're running a training run, when you're by yourself with you and your headphones, it can get tough. And when I think of my pushers, I think of those people. And if that's you, I'm going to talk to you a little bit tonight about a few things. My pausers are the people that maybe have kind of not been as consistent as they wanted to be. They're tempted to kind of write off the rest of the year and just, well, you know what? I'm just going to start fresh in January. You probably feel a little guilty. You probably feel a little like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. The thought of actually getting back into it again is really tough. And the pausers are having to deal with what happens when you kind of stop building momentum, and then you're faced the task of the consistency required to build up that momentum again. And it's a very emotionally daunting stage in the same level, but in a different way than my pushers. And so those people right there, you guys, my pausers, some of you, I don't know, maybe you're all pushers, I don't know, but whatever category you find yourself in, what I'm going to share tonight hopefully will help you, okay? And I want you to just kind of think about it in those terms. As I tend to do, I like to teach a little bit through stories because I think it makes the principles stick a little bit. Plus, it makes these calls a little bit more enjoyable, so it's not just me blabbing at you forever. So I've got 4 kids, and right now my youngest son, he's 11 years old, and he plays flag football. And he's a very competitive kid, my son. He's one of those kids that's so competitive that if he can't win, he just doesn't want to do it. He's so competitive that if they're losing, like he just disengages because the pain of not winning is just really hard on him. And this year, unfortunately, his flag football team sucks, okay? I mean, sucks. They're horrible. And I'm saying that quietly because I don't want to hear me say it, but they're just not good. And they haven't won a game. They hadn't won a game all year. Okay, they lost 5 games in a row. And it was an interesting thing that happened last week, not this week, but last week. And I posted this on Facebook for those of you that are kind of maybe saw that long post that I put. But last week they got murdered. I mean, it was 56-0. It was bad. And the end of the game, they scored. They did another play when time would have been run out. And they should have just let the clock run out. But they scored another touchdown. And me being a dad, I looked over at the opposing team's coach and I kind of yelled at him that he's a bush league and it's a bunch of bull crap and all the stuff. I was that dad for a minute. I'm not proud to admit it, but I was that dad because I was really mad at them for running up the score on this team. And I was really it was so frustrating. I got with my son. We were walking back to the van. And I was thinking about this stupid coach and all these things. And I'm trying to figure out how to have a conversation with my boy because I know he's competitive and I know he's frustrated. And so I look at him. I said, well, that probably wasn't the funnest game you've ever played, Joshua. And I said, but what were some of the things that went right? What were some of the positives? It was the 4 words I used. And he stopped and he looked at me and he said, well, Dad, I didn't quit. He had sprained his ankle the day before. He fell down the stairs chasing my daughter. And so he had sprained his ankle. He said, I didn't quit. Even though my ankle hurt, Dad, I played. And I played hard, even though I wanted to come out because my ankle hurt. So that's good. He talked about how he'd had some good pulls, what they call tackles in flag football, right? Pulls of the flag. And finally he said, and Dad, when all the guys on our team, after they scored those first 2 touchdowns, all the guys on our team were like, we're going to lose and we're not this and that. And I told them, I said, guys, we've just got to focus on the next play and do our best and don't worry about the score. Just go out and do your best. And so I tried to help my team. And I was humbled because here I was being that dad. And here was my 11-year-old son teaching me a lesson. The biggest victory lesson that happened on that field that night wasn't the score. It was what happened with my son. It was an interesting thing. Last night they played. And I'm sitting right on the sideline. This time I learned my lesson. I didn't sit on the opposing sideline because then I would yell at coaches. So I'm sitting on our sideline again so I won't be tempted. And I'm hearing the kids talk in the very beginning. And they're like, oh my gosh, this team looks so good. We're going to lose this game. We're going to do this stuff. And I saw a couple of my son and a couple others like, guys, come on, don't talk like that. Guys, come on, we're going to do our best. And I saw them trying hard to lead. And darn it, if that little Wolverines team didn't go down and score a touchdown. And after they scored a touchdown, the other team got the ball, and they didn't let them score a touchdown. And then they went down, and they scored another touchdown. And all of a sudden, all the kids on the sideline are like, oh, my gosh, we're going to win. And they hadn't even gotten past the first half, but these kids are now prematurely celebrating that they're going to win, right? And they ended up winning the game. The first victory of the season. It was a big deal. We got ice cream. It was a big deal. But the point I'm trying to make.
So that's a number sentence, right?
Hold on. Who's not? I think.
What?
Pause. Need to mute Zakia if we can. And so we've got so here's the point I'm trying to make.
Make it equal on both sides. You get it?
There we go. Sometimes what we've got, okay, here's the point I'm trying to make. So when I look at my son Joshua, when I look at not only the learnings of me being a parent and the victories and all that stuff, but when we look at that self-talk that the team had, that the way they saw adversity, the way they handled adversity, the learnings that took place in there, and the way the different kids handled will speak a lot about what those kids are going to do down the road. I know it sounds really crazy, and it's probably a lot for me to extrapolate from one game, but it made me think about something. A study in 1988. I'm going to show my nerdness here for just a minute. It's usually on full display, but my nerdness here. There was a study done in 1993, and it was done with 128 fifth graders, which is the exact age my son is right now. 128 fifth graders, and what they did is they brought them all into a room, which I have to imagine was like herding cats, trying to get all those kids into one room. And they brought them into a room, and they said they had puzzles for them. And they had puzzles that were designed to be very, very challenging for a fifth grader. And they sat them down, and they said, okay, you need to do these puzzles. And the kids, one by one, worked on the puzzles with the different researchers that were in the room. And when they finished these challenging puzzles, regardless of how well they did or didn't do, didn't matter, they were told, you did really well with that puzzle. Everyone got hurt. Everyone was told that. But then with one group, that was all they heard. So a third of the group, that was heard. You did really well on those puzzles. That was the
going to the JP Leagues?
The second group, okay, the second group was told, you did really well on those puzzles, and it's because of your hard work. You worked so hard on that. I was so impressed with the effort that you gave. You didn't quit. You worked so hard. They reinforced the effort. The last third was told, you did really well on these puzzles. And then they said, you're so smart. You're such a smart kid. You can tell that you're smart because look what you can do on those puzzles. Now, I want you to think about that for just a second. How many of us talk to our kids that way? This is what I've always remembered this, okay? We talk about how smart they are, how good, but here's what they were studying. And this has direct implications on where you're at in your business right now and on some key pivots that all successful coaches have to make. And the technical term, the nerd term that you're all going to look at me like, what did he say? Is called locus of control. Locus being the Latin word for location of control. And what they were studying was the impact of creating a belief system around a locus of control. When you talk about locus of control, you either have an internal locus of control or an external. Internal locus of control is, I believe that what I do, my choices that I make, the effort that I put forward impacts the direction of my life. An external locus of control, meaning I see control as being outside of me, is one that feels like life, it kind of just happens to them, okay? Like it's the difference between, let's say you're late to work. If your impulse is to say, I was late to work because traffic was bad, that's an external locus of control in that situation. It was something else's fault. Internal would be, I was late to work because I didn't leave early enough today. I should have known the traffic was heavy. Those are my decisions, my choices. I'll own those outcomes, okay? So internal, external, and it's an interesting thing. If you look at successful people, successful entrepreneurs, successful business people, successful people in the community, they have a very, very strong internal locus of control in that environment that they're successful in. It's a commonality you can take to the bank. One of the things we talk about, the term we use a lot is business owner mindset, okay? But this is a little bit further. It's a little bit more pushing. And I'll tell you what, let me jump back with the kids. So whenever they were telling the kids, you worked so hard, your efforts is what made the difference. Your efforts is what that was doing. What they were drilling into their head was an internal locus of control belief system with regards to that situation, that environment they were in. The kids where they said, you're so smart, what they were reinforcing was an external locus of control, because most fifth graders don't view intelligence as something that you develop. It's something you're born with, right? You're either smart or you're not smart. That's the way they look. They think things. And they reinforce that, and they reinforce that. So what they did is a little while later, they brought all 128 kids back. And I said, okay, now we're gonna do this again. But here's the difference this time. You can choose what puzzle you want to do, and the puzzles range from they told me, you can do whatever puzzle you want to do this time. We're not going to give it to you. You can choose. And the puzzles that they gave them ranged anywhere from something really easy, like a first grader, all the way to like a 6th or 7th grade level. So instead of being really hard, there was a variety. The kids who were told that they were smart, who had reinforced that external locus of control, sought out puzzles that they could finish. They found the easier puzzles that they could complete because they associate being smart with completing the puzzle. Okay? Whereas the kids who were told that they were hard workers were the ones that pushed themselves to do the hard puzzles. They were the ones that would ask questions, try to figure out strategies to figure out what they could do because they associate their decisions, okay, with what mattered, with the outcome. Now, what the crap does that have to do with your business? So here's the takeaway. As a business owner and as a coach, one of the key things that you need to develop is an internal locus of control for your business. It's not easy because it requires complete accountability and ownership for your business. It means that when things are tough or when things are slow or when you don't feel like it, that you own those choices. So if you're not going to engage in your business, then you own that. It's not because of something else. It's not because of the time of the year. It's not because you own that. It requires a different kind of thinking. And I think you all get this, okay? But I want you to really, really ask yourself, am I developing that? Because it starts with you. Once you understand that, now it will impact how you talk to your coaches that you treat, even your challenges. If you think about it, that's one of the things that you try to teach your challengers, right? They come to you, and a lot of the reasons why their health and fitness goals aren't on point is because they don't have the discipline yet and the habits to make that happen. And part of that is because they spend a lot of time blaming other situations or letting other things dictate to them how their life goes instead of being the captains of their life. And that's in a real sense what you're teaching them to do. Here's the decisions and the discipline that you can make, the choices that you can make, that you can control to dictate the direction that your life goes. It's true for challengers and it's true for coaches. And it's just as important for challengers when they're not used to it, when the obstacles are there, when the temptation exists, when they don't really fully believe in themselves yet, to stick through it, just like it is for coaches in those same situations with their business. When you're hitting that mile 18 for my pushers, the ones that are exhausted, man, okay, the temptation is going to be like, you know what? Like, I'm tired. I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I need a break. The temptation is going to do that. And if we're not careful, what we're doing is we're allowing them the situation to dictate to us how we react instead of the opposite, okay? There's ways to maintain a balance, pushers. There's ways to maintain a balance that keeps you engaged in the course of your business, but you've got to own that. You've got to be the one that makes those decisions to do that. And that's how the best of you gets to be unlocked. That's a key thing, not just for your own business, but for your ability to teach other people that. Now for my pausers. Typically, part of the reason why we pause a lot of times, okay, not in every case, but a lot of times, is because we've abdicated control to things outside of us. Things got hard, things got busy, life got in the way, stuff happened, I just didn't feel like it, someone told me no, all external things come at us, and then we end up reacting to those things instead of doing the things that we know we need to do anyway. The hardest thing for my pausers is going to be getting back on the horse. The hardest thing for the pausers is going to be then taking back that internal locus of control, developing that, returning to that point again, and putting a plan together in place and starting to execute and make choices according to that plan. So while my pushers might need to make sure they're balancing and not going up and down all over the place, my pausers need to kind of maybe up it just a little bit. And not for the standpoint of just trying to work harder, but that we need to take back some of that. We need to impose our will back on our life and on our business. All right? It's not easy, you guys. It's a tough thing to do, but it is one of the key pivot points that I see coaches making. It impacts how we onboard coaches. It impacts how we do things. So here's a couple suggestions, okay, that I'm going to give to you to help you develop an internal locus of control. The first thing is purposeful goals, okay? The reason why setting purposeful goals helps you build and reinforce that internal locus of control, because purposeful goals are tied to something that matters to you, and it helps you identify something that you can reach to help you go in the direction where you're trying to go. That helps you line up those actions to reach that goal, and it reinforces the power of your choice. And when you choose and you see the impact of those choices, and you see what happens, that reinforces that internal locus of control. So purposeful goals. So if I were to ask you right now, look, we've got what, 75 days left in the year? What are you going to do with those 75 days? How's it gonna look? If you're looking at me right now and you're kind of like, well, I'm going to hit Success Club, I'm going to try to do this and that, I'm going to push on that just a little bit respectfully and just say you need to be a little bit more of an owner on that, a little bit more of a captain on that. What does the end of this month look like? How are you going to leverage Core de Force next month in November? Have we got a launch plan in place? Have you started to talk about that so you can leverage that now? What does your plan look like then for November? And then going into December, have you factored in the holidays and what you're going to do to keep your business moving during those times, but also have time for yourself? What does the plan look like? What do the goals look like? If you're just going to plan on just kind of reacting as it happens, you're giving up control. You're thinking like an employee and you're not thinking like a business owner. Okay? So I'm going to push on that. The second thing is choice. One of the biggest things about, somebody said, no, the second thing is creating choices. One of the biggest things about reinforcing an internal locus of control is the ability to choice. People are not motivated if they don't feel like they have control over what they're doing. And sometimes we forget that we have tons of control over what we're doing because we don't make choices. And so inserting choice into our business, making conscious choices in our business, reminds us of the control that we have in our business. And when we remember we have control over the outcomes of our business, or the things that we can control, that helps us feel motivated. So what are the choices you're putting into your business for yourself? Okay, it's really, really simple, guys. The choice to say, you know what, I'm going to wake up this morning and I'm going to get my workout in before the kids go to school. Or the choice to say, hey, instead of doing this, I'm going to do this. Instead of time management wise, I'm going to do my power hour, and this is going to be the structure that I'm going to put it in. As silly as those things sound, you guys, you're exerting choice. When you're mentoring other coaches, don't be one of those coaches that tries to make it so easy that you take away all the choice out of it, because then you're just creating dependent people who never learn how to have this internal locus of control. Put choice back into there. Okay. The example I use sometimes is, instead of just giving someone a script, say, here are 3 different examples of what I say. Why don't you go ahead and choose through one of those that maybe speaks best to you and adapt it to yourself and let me know. Choice, okay? I've got a couple options for you. It's either A or B. Now, you don't really care if it's A or B. In fact, you might have just pretended that A and B were 2 different choices when they're really the same one. But what you're reinforcing in their mind is that they can choose and that they have to take ownership of those choices, okay? And then the third thing. Okay, so the first one, make sure we get these. Okay, so the first one was purposeful goals. The second one was creating choices. And now the third one is self-talk. I want you guys to be very aware of how you're talking to yourselves. In my experience, we have such good coaches who will give a drop of a hat for any reason, will give anyone any pass or excuse or unconditional love or whatever they have to just out of the goodness of their heart. But they are the hardest, meanest, most merciless people to themselves. How we talk to ourselves is important. The stories that we tell ourselves, even the lies that maybe sometimes we tell ourselves, will reinforce this sense of an internal locus of control, that right mindset or not. Do I talk to myself like a victim? Or do I talk to myself like I'm empowered? Do I talk to myself as being someone who has no control? Or do I talk to myself as someone who has control? Do I look at myself as a victim in my life or a captain of my life? You guys kind of see what I'm saying on this. And I know a lot of you don't think it matters sometimes, but it does. Those things that you tell yourself reinforces how you see yourself, and how you see yourself impacts how you act with yourself. And when times get tough, when things get slow, if you have just done nothing but beat yourself up, you can't expect yourself to be able to stand up and be strong because you don't believe it's there. Chances are, though, those of you that struggle with this, you've got in the habit of it. You find comfort in it because it's familiar to you. To you, in some cases, people use it as almost like a way of, as a safety net. Because if I beat myself up on it, then my expectations are really low. And if I screw up, you know what? I knew it wasn't going to work. You know what? That's just how I am. You know what? I'm just not good at this. You know what? I fail at everything. You know what? This is so dumb. People always say that about me. And I give myself, and it's like an emotional security is what you think it is, because it keeps you from investing yourself fully. It keeps you from risking fully. But one of my favorite quotes from Anais Nin says this: and the day came that the risk to remain all tight in the bud was more painful than the risk it took to blossom. There's risk either way, you guys. Either way, there's risk. You can live a small life. You can talk bad to yourself. You can let things dictate to you how you react and how you do things. And you can and find excuse. And guys, people will tell you it's okay. They'll pat you on the back. I mean, mediocrity loves company, and so they'll find a way to help you feel good about it. You'll be all right, but in your heart, you'll be like, I'm better than this. I can do better. You now know better as coaches. You know you can. And so the risk of playing small, you don't do the world any favors by playing small. It's not noble to play small. It's not noble to kind of keep yourself all safe. It feels like it's safe, but it's not. The greater risk is to stay there instead of living, instead of pushing yourself, instead of owning those choices, taking that control in your life. And yeah, there's going to be risk. You're not going to always succeed. You're not going to win. But you know what? People with an internal locus of control, they go, that sucked. I didn't learn. Okay, but what did I learn? What were the things? How am I going to get better with this? Because I know that the better I get, the better my choices are, the better my skills are, that's the greater chance that I have of getting the success that I want. And this is part of the process. It's not up to fate. It's up to me. And I'll own that. And I'll tell you the reason, guys, oh my gosh, sorry, why this matters. And I feel like I'm getting on a little bit of a rant here, but this is what happens when I'm caffeinated and I get on these calls. I had a little energized late in the day today. So anyway, sometimes I think when we talk like this, something that needs to be mentioned is why. Why do we do it? We only do things, I tell this to Stephanie all the time, we only do things consistently in our life that matter to us. If things don't matter, you won't do them consistently. So why do you coach? What's the purpose behind it for you? And I might be maybe I'm a little too, what's the word? Altruistic. I want to just believe in the good of people. Money is an important thing, and I hope you guys all make millions with Beachbody, okay? But one thing I learned from my grandpa, who was very successful financially, before he died, in some private conversations he had with me, was that's in our life, that's not what's going to matter most. Of lasting impact isn't the comma in someone's weekly check. It's the feeling that they mattered, and it's a feeling that they made a difference, and it's a feeling that they lived their life and they had an impact on the world. Now that might sound very Tony Robbins, go, rah, do, be, rah, 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 but I believe it. I legitimately believe it. I tend to be a purpose-driven, mission-driven kind of guy. That's the way that I want to live my life. And I believe that resonates with people. So I'm going to end with a story, and then I'll ask him some questions. And some of you may have heard this. I'm going to tell you the story about my daughter, Caitlin. In fact, I'm going to share my screen. Is that okay? Do you care? Let me see real quick. I hope you don't care because I just did it. Okay. Can you see that okay? It says, why does this all matter? Okay, so this is from a presentation I gave, but I'm just using it so I can show you some pictures. So let me tell you about my daughter, Caitlin. And as I'm telling you this is the thing. I want you to understand. I want you to think about your why. But I want you to think about it in terms of of your legacy, of how this gives you a platform to build a legacy for yourself, and understand really what the power of one person can be. My belief is, guys, I don't know, like I said, if you'll make millions of dollars, and I hope that happens for you, if that's what you want, if that's a big deal for you, I hope they get that. But I'll tell you what, I know this for sure. If you spend years coaching at Beachbody and you maybe touch 4 or 5 people, and those 4 or 5 people look at you and they're like, you changed my life. Because of you, I enjoyed decades more with my family. I enjoyed a quality of life that I never would have enjoyed. Because of you, my family's different. My kids know better. They're going to live more healthy. You have impacted generations of my family because you talk to me. I believe that at the end, the greatest value you will get out of being a Beachbody coach will be those people. I hope you see that. I hope you believe that. I'll tell you the reason why it resonates with me is because I've experienced it. So my 2 oldest kids have special needs. Some of you know that already. And my oldest son, Caleb, due to the nature of the special needs, it's called Fragile X syndrome. It's on the X chromosome, and so I won't get into genetics here. But due to the genetics of it, my son, Caleb, is a lot more severely affected than my daughter, Caitlin. So when you see my son, Caleb, you're kind of like, oh, hey, we got to kind of give this kid some consideration and kind of go out of our way. And so he gets great friends. People go out of their way to help him, and they go out of their way to try to include him in our church groups, in our neighborhood. Everyone just kind of puts their arm around Caleb and makes sure he's taken care of. Now, my daughter, Caitlin, let me just bring up a picture over here. This is my daughter, Caitlin. And I'm apologizing if I get emotional on this one. But my daughter, Caitlin, doesn't get that. She's not as affected as my son. And so when you look at her, you talk to her, you would maybe sense something was off, but it wouldn't be that much. Whereas my son talks to me in like 3 to 4 word like bursts of little phrases. I've never had a real conversation with him his whole life. My daughter Caitlin can talk to you. She'll tell you how her day was. She watches Disney Channel every day. When I tease her about One Direction, she gets embarrassed. When she just loves things that girls her age love. But she struggles with abstract thinking and sarcasm and teasing and things like that because she doesn't really get it. We'll go to our IEP meetings with her teachers. Those of you that know I'm talking about, it's individual education plan. When you have special needs kids, you meet with all the people that kind of help support the child, and they have a plan, and they'll do it, frequently during the school year. Whenever we'll meet with them, they'll always say the same thing. What a great student she is. She's such a hard worker. She's a good girl. But inevitably, what would happen is we would get around her social situations, and that's where all the concern was. They tell us about how she eats lunch by herself in the lunchroom. Like no one sits with her. Oh my gosh, sorry guys. No one sits with her. How she, out at recess, she usually just kind of went over and would swing on the swings by herself, and she wasn't ever really included with the other kids. They wouldn't go out of their way to get her. They never gave her that extra effort of inclusion like they would give my son. And when she would try to engage with them, they would just move at a speed that she couldn't keep up with, and so they would tease her and do other things. And so she just realized that it was just better if she was just separate. And so this was something that really hurt me a lot. You wanted to have that person or just someone just to see in her what you saw in her and just give her a chance, because if they would just see what you saw, what you know is there, if they would just take the time to just try to accommodate her a little bit, they would find the most loyal and loving person that would always be there with them. I would come home from work, and if I ever had to run an errand after work, I always come by the house first. And the reason why I would come by the house was because I knew Caitlin would be in the house by herself watching TV. And I would want to take her with me so she would at least get out of the house. 3 summers ago, I came home and I had to go to Home Depot. We call it the orange store in my house. I don't know why we call it the orange store. We don't even call Home Depot, it's just the orange store. And I came in the house and I said, Caitlin, do you want to go to the orange store? And she said, no. And I said, Caitlin, I will buy you a root beer. She's like, okay. Bribery works really well with Caitlin. And so she gets in the car with me, and we're heading down to Home Depot. And as we're driving down the hill from from my house, I keep seeing her kind of like look at me, like kind of look up at me. And so I'm kind of watching on peripheral vision. Every time I turn around to look at her, she kind of like looks forward again. So I'm kind of like, well, what's going on? And all of a sudden she just kind of turns and she keeps her gaze at me. And she goes, Daddy, I have Fragile X and I have a special brain. And that means I'm different than other people. And I just lost it. Like I pulled over the side of the road. I was crying. I hugged her and I was like, you are loved. You're just how God made you. You are. And I had never felt so inadequate as a parent as I did in that moment. But she was just realizing this. She had been asking my wife about it. My wife finally just said, look, this is what's happening. And she was processing that information where she was finally understanding what was going on with her. That next year, I tell you this to give you kind of an insight into Caitlin. That next year, Katie and I still were kind of having these concerns. One night there was a knock on our door here at the house. And I opened the door, and it was one of the girls, high school girls from our neighborhood. Her name is Sarah. And she goes, hey, do you have a second to talk? And I was like, because usually high school girls don't come to my house looking to talk to me. So I was like, me? She goes, no, you and your wife. I was like, okay, come on in. So Sarah came in. And Sarah knew Caitlin. Her mom was friends with my wife, and I think my wife had kind of talked to her mom a little bit about Caitlin. Anyway, Sarah, my wife came in the room, and Sarah said, hey, I was made captain of the high school cross-country team. And she goes, do you think Caitlin would like to come run cross-country? And Katie and I were like, man, we would love it if she would. I mean, that would be so, but I don't know. And we, I'm not sure. And Caitlin, I just don't, Sarah says, well, if she will do it, she goes, I'll come pick her up every morning, take her to cross country, and I'll take care of her if she'll do it. Just let me know. And so I remember she left. We closed the door. We kind of looked at each other like, oh my gosh, this would be so good. I mean, it's running, where there's not a lot of social interaction anyway, but she could be a part of something, maybe get included, all that kind of stuff. We're going through our minds. We're like, okay, we got to look at this. We got to see make this happen. So we walked in the room. Caitlin was still sitting there watching TV. And I looked at Caitlin and I said, Caitlin, do you want to run on the cross country team? And she looked at me and she goes, what is that, Daddy? And I said, Caitlin, it's running. She goes, what do you mean? I said, it's just running. You just run like with people, like in races. And she looked at me, she goes, no, Daddy, I don't want to do that. And I'm like, Caitlin, come on, it'll be so good for you. My wife and I are trying to talk her into it, and she's getting really insistent. And then all of a sudden I had this little moment of inspiration. My daughter is just like every girl her age. She loves shopping and she loves clothes. So I looked at her and I said, Caitlin, here's the deal. If you're going to run that cross-country team, that means we're going to have to go to the Nike store and we're going to have to buy you like 2 outfits, like 2 shoes, 2 shorts, 2 this, 2 that. And she looked at me, she was like, 2 shoes? And I was like, yeah, two pairs of shoes. She thought about it for a second. She goes, okay, I'll do it. I was like, we're like, okay, we tried to act all casual. Then we went in the other room and we're hugging each other and we were super excited, my wife and I. Anyway, so we called Sarah, we told her, went up to the Nike store that night, got her outfits. I don't remember how much it cost. We didn't even buy it off the sale rack. That's how excited I was. Whatever she wanted, she got it. And Sarah came that next morning, 6:20, at our door, picked up my daughter, Caitlin. And the good thing about Caitlin is once she kind of gets her schedule set in her mind, she sticks to it. So every single day, Caitlin got up at 6 o'clock, was ready by 6:20. Sarah came and picked her up. And every single day last summer, not this past summer, but the summer before that last year, she went and come and got my daughter for cross country. And I saw something happen in my daughter. Okay. My daughter went from this, she just came alive. She was happy. She would come home and she would talk and she would engage, and she talked about her friends and the things they did across country. And Sarah came and Sarah was with her every step of the way. This is a picture of Sarah. Okay. And Sarah was with her every step of the way. By the second month in cross country, she had kind of paired her up with kind of a running buddy. And they were getting ready to start their season when they do cross-country meets. And last year, we were like, okay, we're going to go to her first meet. And we told Caitlin we were going to come to her first meet, and she did not want us to go. She was just getting like teenager. She's like, no, Dad, I don't want you to come. She's embarrassed to be seen with her friends and all this stuff. And so we were driving her down to her meet. We dropped her off, and she was like, okay, I'll see you later. And we're like, okay. So then we drove around the block. We parked in the parking lot because I wasn't going to miss this. And I remember sitting in the stands. It was in the starting line was in the middle of the football field, and there was kind of stands on each side. And we're sitting up in the stands, and I'm looking at probably 200 girls out about across the 50-yard line, and I can see my daughter because she wears that green hat. She's the only one to this day that I've seen wear a hat. And last year it was her green hat, and I could see her out there, and she is just sticking right on Sarah's like hip. And Sarah's putting her arm around her, and Sarah's kind of explaining things to her, and Sarah's taking her in with the team. And I'm watching them do their little pregame cheer, and they're putting their arm around each other. And I'm watching this happen. And as they get ready to start, she takes her to the back, and she puts her with the running buddy. And I can see her just kind of saying, okay, this is who you're going to run with, because Sarah's considerably faster than my daughter. And I see Caitlin nod her head, and she goes, okay. And then the gun goes off, and they start running. And the lap was really interesting. So the cross-country meets are 3-mile laps. So it was 3 miles total, 1 mile lap. And the lap went outside, started the 50-yard lane, went outside the football field, went down the street, and then it went around the block where you kind of lost sight of them. It came back up, then it serpentined through a field, went back up around the stadium, came through the 50-yard line, and then they ran again 3 times around that loop. And we're watching our daughter go. And my poor kids, you guys, I'm telling you, I'm all emotional. I'm giving leadership lessons left and right. I'm like, you see how she's not quitting? And now my poor youngest kids are just like, Dad, like, enough, buddy. Okay, we get it, Mr. Inspirational guy. And so, but I'm watching my daughter run. And I remember this first lap. This is me. So I'm up in the stands looking over the back now at her running. And I'm watching her, and there she is with her buddy. And you guys, they're the last ones in this race. I mean, they're last place. I don't care. I'm watching her just stick right with her running buddy, and she's kind of going around, and I didn't say anything the first lap because I didn't want her to get mad at me. So the second lap comes around. And what I start noticing is that my daughter keeps kind of just running ahead of this girl, and then she'll realize she runs ahead, and then she'll kind of like turn around and kind of run back and like run ahead, then run back, and she's not going to leave this girl because Sarah told her that she needed to stay with her running buddy. And so she's going to stay with her. And so she'd run ahead, and sometimes she'd turn around. I'd see her applaud for the girl and kind of cheer on, come on, you can do it. But she wasn't going to leave that girl. And now I'm losing it like crazy. I'm just like, oh my gosh, all this stuff. I used to be tough, but I got kids, and now I'm emotional. I'm weird. So anyway, all this is happening. I'm watching my daughter run this race, and she's staying with this person. They're the last kids in this race. And then the third lap comes. And as they started the third lap, their coach went out, and I couldn't hear her, but I could see. We were probably 300 yards away, and I could see her, and she does this. And I imagine this is what she's saying. I can see her. She goes, what's wrong? She kind of shrugs her shoulders. And I see my daughter say, I don't know. She's not feeling good. She's pointing back at her friend, and she's kind of shrugging her shoulders. And then I see the coach say, it's okay. I've got it. You go. And my daughter was like, I can go? And she's like, yes, you go. I'll take care of her. And so then my daughter just put her head down, and she just starts to run. And she ran most of that third lap, because at this point, you guys, they were really far behind everybody. But my daughter ran most of that third lap by herself, which was really symbolic for me in her journey in this life. A lot of it will be by herself on this. And at this point, I couldn't help it. When she came by the stands, I started screaming for her, and she looked up at me with this death look, like, what are you doing here? You're not supposed to be at this thing. I told you to stay home, and all this stuff, but I can't handle it. And as she's coming back in, I'm watching her, and I'm like, she's going to catch that girl. She's going to catch the girl that's in front of her. And as she came into the stadium, she not only caught that girl, she passed the other girl that was in front of her, passed 2 people on her way in. And now I'm just like, I'm heading down the bleachers, and in my mind, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to go have this moment, and we're going to hug each other, and it's going to be like, I'm so proud of you, Caitlin. As I came down the stairs, and I was looking at the finish line, who did I see? I saw Sarah. Sarah had gotten the whole team, and they were sitting there screaming for my daughter. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to go down there. And my daughter ran across that finish line, and they cheered for her, and they put her arms around her, and they took her around, and I couldn't have been happier. Here's the point of all this. My daughter runs it this year. She's done it. They just finished their season. Sarah's not at the point now where she picks her up anymore. Caitlin goes by herself. Sarah's still there. Sarah still talks to her. But now Caitlin has other friends in cross country. When you ask her what she does, she says, I'm a cross country runner. I run cross country every single day. We've spent like a fortune on the high school cross country shirts because that's the only thing that she'll wear to school. And she sees herself that way. It's a source of identity and confidence. And here's the reason why I'm telling you this story. I don't know what else this girl will do in her life. I don't know. But I know in our house, she's a saint. We will always revere her because she has changed the trajectory of my daughter's life. Because she made the choice to reach out. She made the choice to do something that other people weren't willing to do. An interesting footnote to this. This year was Sarah's senior year. We shared this a little bit. We found out from her mom that Sarah was struggling with some depression issues, was having some suicidal thoughts and things like that. And I shared this story at the Connecticut Super Saturday, the last one. And at the end of it, the thought occurred to me. I said, you know what? Do me a favor. Whenever I end this story, I always talk about a little idea. It's just be Sarah. Be Sarah. Be Sarah to somebody. Be Sarah to as many people as you can be. Be Sarah. I know it gets hard, but be Sarah. I know it's not convenient, but be Sarah. I know it's awkward and it's kind of weird. Should I start this conversation? Well, you know what? It wasn't easy for her to come talk to people that she didn't really know, to ask if their special needs daughter could come to cross country, but she did it. And she changed her life. So be Sarah. Be the person that can see that was willing to put themselves out there to make a difference. That's the platform your Beachbody business gives you to do. You're not an accountant. You're not doing, your job allows this to happen for you. So be Sarah. And when I shared this at Connecticut, I said, do me a favor. I said, when you think about this, just send me a quick message that talked about how that story impacted you. Because what I wanted to do was gather that, and I didn't tell these guys that, but I wanted to gather that, and I wanted to give it to Sarah because I wanted her to know. And so we took all those, there was probably 150 things that came in, and I put them all, these messages to Sarah. And I printed them out, and I put them in a book. And my daughter got to give it to Sarah. And I watched Sarah break down and cry, and they hugged each other. It was kind of a full circle moment, if you will. My wife's friend, her mom, let us know what a huge difference that made for her. And isn't that how that works sometimes, you guys? Isn't that how that works, that relationship? So be Sarah. Okay? We talk about internal locus of control and other things like that. Make the choice to be Sarah. It won't happen every time, guys. It won't always turn out to be the storybook ending, but they're there. Those opportunities are there, but you've got to be the ones that make the choices to go get them because you're the coach. You're the coach. So be Sarah. All right, you guys? That's what we do. That's why we do what we do. And at the end of our days, in my opinion, those moments, those opportunities are what will matter most to us. So anyway, so thank you. I'll stop sharing that. Thanks, guys, for letting me share that. Thanks for letting me be here with you guys tonight. I'm happy to answer any questions or do anything else I can, or we can just hang up, whatever you want to do.
Awesome. Well, let me say thank you so much, Cim. That was really, really, really awesome. I see some tears in amongst. But
well, if it helps you remember it, that's all I care. That's why I tell the story, so it sticks in your brain. So don't be hesitant. Be Sarah. Don't be hesitant. You guys got this.
Absolutely. And I don't know if anyone has any questions or comments for Cim. I see some people saying, let's see what they're saying here. Amazing call. Thank you so much. Very impactful. Thank you so much. And I think, guys, I talk a lot about this with my success partner, Nina, who's on the call. We talk a lot about how, we have to realize that, being a coach it's not about us. The gift of coaching is not about us And we have to kind of get into that mindset. It's about the other person. When we don't want to reach out to that person, when we're sitting down and kind of wasting time or overthinking things, it's not allowing us to put into practice that ability to be able to reach out to people. And so often we get caught up in fears, or we get caught up in like what Kim was saying, that negative self-talk, and it just stops us from being able to make that impact. And I always like to ask people, it's like, when I first started coaching, it was, I told myself it was first for my own journey. And then second, if I helped one other person, it would be all worth it. And I've kind of tried to keep that same mindset. If I can reach one more person, if I can impact one more person with my social media post, there's one more person out there who maybe today needs to hear what I have to say. And it's the same thing with all of you. There's people out there who maybe tomorrow's the day that their heart is open to hearing what you have to say. Or maybe tomorrow's the day that they'll even see your post when they log on and they finally come in, because remember, not everyone always sees our post. But just remembering that, that if you kind of look at it that way, keep it simple that way of who can I help next? Who can I reach out to next? Who's, can I lend out that helping hand? You'll see that this, that compound effect of always keeping that always keeping that mindset will help you with this business. Let's see. I could listen to your stories all day. Thank you. Yes. Awesome. Kim, thank you for sharing stories. Oh, thank you, Blair. You're so sweet. And it says, I could listen to your stories. Thank you for all letting me join you. You got this. Oh, be Sarah.
Yeah.
Help you. Thank you so much. Very deep message. I really need this calm. Anyone else want to say anything, or?
If you have any questions or whatever and you don't feel like you want to bring up here, you can reach out to me on Facebook. I'm happy to answer them.
Tony has something.
Hey.
Oh, Tony, what's up?
So I was listening. I was trying to do something else, and I decided you were more interesting. So, yeah. Well, I was trying to multitask.
That as a compliment.
It is. I was trying to multitask, and I decided I was naughty, and I listened very intently to everything you had said. So,
okay, good.
That's
good.
a win. But I wanted to say something, and I know Stephanie could definitely agree. We're both physicians.
Mm-hmm.
And let's just say that I can promise you with money on the table that what we do as coaches might be more important in some ways. Like, we get more time. Steph can tell you. You get like, okay, let's go. Make a decision. Give them something. Fix them, put Band-Aids on them. They need us in the moment, but they actually need us a lot longer, and there's no time.
Yeah.
So it's interesting how being Sarah outside of work it has a different level of fulfillment, because you actually get to see the results. You get to spend the time. You get to, reassess the situation and fix it. And people get to give you the feedback that, oh my goodness, that helped me in ways that I can take for the rest of my life. So, I went to school forever, and I thought that's what I was doing. But my job as a coach is more like Sarah, and you are so right. Like, I think it balances things.
Yep. It merits the time. And that's tying the two concepts together, you guys, is it comes down to choice. Yeah. And I know we get my pushers and my pausers that we're busy. We got, emotions in this, but at the end of the day, it comes down to choice. And Sarah, in this example, made a choice, and that choice had a huge impact. And she made a choice. I'm sure every day when she had to get up an extra 20 minutes early to come pick up my daughter, there were probably days when she was like, you know what, this is stupid. Why did I ever sign up for this? Right? But she came. And that choice is what will set you apart. And that choice is where that sacrifice starts to qualify you not only for success in the business, but for helping other people. It's that choice that matters, that knowing that the choices that I make impact the direction that I want to go and the things that I want to do. It all starts with the choice. It's not just luck. It's not just if it happens, it happens. It's choice.
Absolutely. Awesome. And the last thing I just wanted to say is there was something you said, Kim, that I thought was really, really great. And I just wanted to kind of end with that if anyone else has anything to say. But it's just really always going back and asking, how am I taking this experience, this, being a part of a team, coaching, how am I taking this experience and how am I growing and becoming better through this?
Yep.
I think, guys, to me, that the gold in coaching is our own personal development and our ability to grow and you said something, Kim, where you just said, you have the potential to impact someone so much that you're going to potentially affect their future generations. And I never really thought of it like that, until you just said it in that moment right now. And to think of the people that I know, myself and those on our team who we have impacted, and to see some of you on this call, how much you have grown, and to see how much so many of our other people on our team have grown, and other people throughout the network, the friends that we have. It's just that's so powerful. When you're thinking about, do I want to continue to do this? Just look at your own development. Look at how much of a blessing, how much your mind has changed, how much more happier you are, how much more fulfilled you feel, how, the friendships that have come into your life, the opportunity. I see Blair crying like, oh, poor Blair. Blair's like crying like, oh, but it's true. And I just want to, I think when you said, I had never thought about the potential for, just the future impact, it's just because I'm always kind of thinking of the person in front of me, but I just think that's so powerful. And I want you guys all to really take that to heart, the impact that you have to be able to impact someone's, not only themselves, but their family and the generations, beyond them. So really think about that.
Awesome. Well, speaking of generations, my kids keep poking their heads around the corner here wondering if I'm done, so I should probably go.
Yes. Thank you, guys. All right, guys.
Thanks for the opportunity to be here with you guys. We'll talk to you soon, all right? See you now.
Bye.
Let's go get it, guys. Bye-bye.